specifically for women. Regardless of how you identify, this stuff is going to be really powerful. But I will share, time management was one of my biggest challenges for so many years. It was like my Achilles heel. So if you're coming in live today, go ahead and just pop in the comments, like, what is your number one challenge or struggle with time management? I'm so curious to know because I thought it was just my destiny and my fate to struggle with this for the rest of my life. And what I've learned just through years of personal development and also like a lot of spiritual work too are different ways of thinking about managing your time. And really, it's more about managing your energy, specifically if you're a woman, that will transform your life. So, part of why I wanted to bring this up too is that this tends to be one of the biggest struggle areas for the women who come into my 10K club program. And I tend to hear a lot about like, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. I've got all these things going on. I feel like my focus is all these different ways. And hopefully this is helpful too, just like for a Monday, right? If you're watching this live or on the same day I'm recording it, is to really have a mindset shift today that carries you powerfully through the rest of your week. So there are three key things that I have done in my life. Well, there's more than three, but I would say three things that really came to mind for me this morning that have helped me transform my relationship with time, that I also feel will powerfully help you transform as well. And so if you're watching on Facebook or LinkedIn, pop a comment. Let me know you're here. I can't see you. I can't see that you're here unless you write in the comments that you're here. And I just love to know who's here and what your number one question is about time management too. I really want to hear that from you. So here's the three things. Number one, you must become unavailable to be overwhelmed. So part of this, and really I would say the bigger part of this, is just it's a decision. Just like anything else in your life, the amount of money you make, the way you're going to show up in your relationship, and your relationship with time, it is a decision as to whether you're going to be overwhelmed or not. We've got Howard coming in. Leonard, how are you guys? We're talking about an unconventional approach to time management today too. So it is a decision. And I remember there was a point in time where I'd kind of gotten fed up enough with my own BS about saying I'm overwhelmed and always feeling anxiety on Sunday nights about like all the stuff, quote unquote stuff I had to do. And I was just like, I'm over this. I'm done with this. Like, I realized that the energy I was bringing to it, because the energy you bring to anything you do will either it'll always amplify the results you get, whether good or bad. And so I just decided, I was like, I'm ready to bring a different energy to what I do. And if the end result of what I'm looking for is to feel in control, to feel empowered, to feel like I have all the time in the world, I've got to start bringing that energy to it now. Even though it doesn't feel like that yet, I've got to start adopting that belief system. Howard saying true. Yes. So I have to start adopting this belief system that I do have all the time in the world, that I have just as much time as Oprah and Elon Musk, and they seem to be getting plenty done in their time. So what's different, right? And everything is just a belief system. So you've got to become unavailable for overwhelm. And I was coaching a woman on Friday who's in my membership program, and she came on the call, and she's a high achieving woman, beautiful woman, but she's like, I'm just so overwhelmed. I don't know what to focus on, yada, yada. And I was like, the number one thing is you've got to cut that out. And you can switch. The language I would use instead is, wow, I'm so in demand. Like, I'm not overwhelmed. I'm in demand. Look at how in demand I am. And do you feel that shift in your body when you speak to it that way? When suddenly you say, you go from feeling overwhelmed, which is like you're at effect of everyone else, you're not in control, blah, 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 which is a really disempowering state to be in, right? To suddenly know, I'm so in demand. And so it's that shift that makes all the difference in the world. Hey, Jamie, I'm so glad you're here. So that's the first thing, is you have to become unavailable for overwhelm, period, end of story. It's a decision. Everything in your life that you get is a result of what you're available for. That is it. The second thing, and as you're coming in live, if you've got a question on time management, pop it in the comments, because I'm here to help you this morning with it. Yes, just like that, Howard. It's boom. That was when I had my financial quantum leap. It was literally a decision. When I made my time shift, it was a decision. It's always just a decision, but you have to decide first, and then the how will line itself up for you, but you won't see the how until you make that decision that you are either of what you're available for in your life. So that's it. The second thing, and I know we got some men joining live this morning, specifically on Instagram, and I'm so glad you're here. So this is going to speak to my ladies, but know this is going to be really helpful. Like if you're a man and you're watching this will really empower the women in your life, whichever women you're supporting in your life. So you have to know how your energy cycles actually work. So we don't have time to do a deep dive this morning, but here's the basic idea is men's hormones cycle every 24 hours with the sun. So if you're a man, if you're biologically a man, your hormones are going to cycle roughly every 24 hours. And what that means is you're going to have roughly the same energy levels at different times throughout the day. So what happens is in our business world, it's typically designed to operate in that 24-hour cycle, right? And especially a lot of the women who follow me are either in sales or they're entrepreneurs. And we can think that something's wrong with us if one day we feel like totally up for going out there and networking and prospecting. And then another day we don't want to talk to anyone. And we're like, the last thing I want to do in the world is connect with someone. And I made myself wrong for that for so many years. If you're a woman and you're watching this, let me know in the comments if you have made yourself wrong for this. Hey, Alexis and Rita over on LinkedIn. So glad to have you ladies here. So I used to make myself wrong because I didn't know anything different, because we're kind of expected to show up and operate with the same energy levels every single day, right? That's what we're taught. Well, here's the thing that blew my mind when I learned it. And I didn't learn this until like last year or the year before, but and it actually is really logical when you learn it, women's hormones cycle every 30-ish days or so with the moon. And again, we're not going to do a deep dive. If you're curious about a deep dive, I've got a training on this in my membership program, my monthly membership. She sells all access. It's like super affordable. You can go check it out at elisearcher.com/training. And I do a deep dive into how this works. But as a woman, you're going to typically have 1 week of the month where you feel really creative, where you feel like you want to create a new program, launch new things, like you get all these ideas downloading for social media. You're going to have another week of the month where you really feel like you want to be visible, where you feel like prospecting, where you feel like doing your presentations, where you're super magnetic. You're going to have another week of the month where you feel inward, where you're actually biologically wired during that week to be more inward and to be completing loose ends and details from the previous 2 weeks of whatever you were launching and creating. And then you're going to have 1 week of the month where you really don't feel like talking to anybody, where you have more heightened awareness of what's not working in your life and in your business anymore. And that's a really good time, if you can, to not have a lot of meetings. That's a really good time to focus on, what am I going to get rid of next month? What am I going to shift? What am I going to eliminate? Yes, it ties in with your menstrual cycle. So all of this stuff, the more we can normalize this and talk about it, the more we can actually, as women, elevate our productivity. Because when you learn this and you can start to shift and arrange your activities to align with your natural energy flows and realize that, yeah, you're not wired to feel the same energy-wise every 24 hours like your male counterparts are. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I think more as men, like I so appreciate, there's a company, amazing company, Rent Scale, that I'm doing a keynote for in a couple of weeks talking about this. And it's a man and a woman team who are like leading this and initiating this conversation. And I so appreciate the fact that these empowered men are also stepping up and saying, wow, like we need to help the women on our teams learn this stuff and learn how they're wired. Because I didn't know this stuff when I was working in corporate. I didn't know that my energy cycles were going to fluctuate every 28 days and that there wasn't anything wrong with me if I had 1 week where I felt super dynamic and like I was really wanting to like go out and set the world on fire and do all my sales stuff that week, and that there would be another week where I really wasn't feeling it. But what we're taught is like, there's something wrong with you. Just push through it, just force your way through it. And it's not actually how you achieve your highest productivity. So if you're watching this and you're a man and you're either working with other women or you're leading other women, you need to know this stuff. Because when I learned this stuff, my productivity skyrocketed. It's not about making excuses. It's not about being quote unquote weak. It's about knowing how are you biologically wired and then leveraging that for your utmost success and productivity. And I guarantee you, you empower the women on your team with this information and their productivity will skyrocket and soar. It will. So that's the second thing, is you have to know how your energy cycles work. I'm just checking comments here on LinkedIn. Rita, yeah, the how will reveal itself. Yeah. And I know you and I'm so glad you're in my program, because we're going to do a deep dive into this. But yeah, for years, I know you kind of had that same conditioning that I had, right? Where we've got to show up and be the same every single day. OJ, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much. And then here's the third thing, and this is new, but I did this weekend and this was so fun. And this is where I've just decided I'm going to share everything I believe, even if I know it's going to make some people think I'm nuts. And I don't care. It's okay, because this is my truth. You get to have your truth, and this is how it works. So I don't know how many of you have read this book. I'll show on Instagram first. Ask and It Is Given, Abraham Hicks. This is exceptional. It's actually been so transformational in my life that I'm going to be doing a free series all April, teaching you the practices in this book on how to release resistance to what you want. But specifically this third technique, and you can use this man, woman, non-binary, I don't care. It's amazing. I learned it from this book, is called delegating to the manager, or giving a task to the manager. So here's the concept, and it leverages the law of attraction. So the concept is, and this is where we can get messed up, is we think we have to do everything ourselves, right? And I used to think this way. If something's going to happen, if I'm going to bring in a client, if I'm going to bring in a certain amount of money, I'm responsible for all of it. And when I was operating that way, I had totally shut off my spiritual connection. I had totally shut off my access to my intuition. And it was hard. So right now, if going after your goals and achieving your goals feels hard, then tap in and check in and say, how much am I leveraging my spiritual connection throughout the day? Whatever that is for you, God, universe, source, I don't care. But here, and Leonard, that's a great question. I'm going to answer that in a moment. So I'll come back to you. That's great. So here's the idea, is the concept that it teaches in this book is each of us essentially has this like very high paid manager that's right there, who's ready to help us. Think about it like you've got a manager on your team and you've paid them $500,000 a year. You've paid this person $500,000 a year to help you in accomplishing your goals, but you act like they're not there. Like you go about your day, you never delegate anything to them. You never tell them what you need help with. You never ask for assistance. You just go. And you're like, if it's meant to be, it's up to me, right? How often have we heard that cute little quote, which isn't true? And the concept in this is when you need help with something, you delegate it to your manager. So I'll give you an example. I have been enrolling a second group of women into the 10K club over this past week. And this weekend on Saturday, that was when enrollment was closing. And I had gotten close to my target, but not quite there. And I just felt energetically like there's one specific woman who was still supposed to be in the program. And I wasn't quite at the financial goal I had for this either, but I was like, I've learned to be really unattached to that and just say, hey, that like those things would feel really good to me, but you know, whatever happens with this. But I read this chapter in the book about like turning it over to your manager. And I was like, let me just try this. Like, let me just see what happens. So I just had a conversation in my head with my manager, and it was kind of a prayer. And it was like, hey, you know, here's where we're at. Here's where I'd like to be. Here's who else I think needs to be in this program. Here's, you know, the revenue target I was aiming for. And I'm just going to turn it over to you because I've done everything at this point that I've felt called to do to fill the program, and wherever it lands, and it's going to be perfect. But just please today, like connect with the other women who are meant to be in the program and help them feel called to step up and show up and say yes. And whoever's meant to step up at a higher level in the program, let them do that too. You know, I did that. And then I like went on about my day. I got one download to do some specific outreach on my own, which I did. And then I felt called to do nothing else about it. And so old Elise would have been like, oh girl, you just got to work harder. Like you're being unrealistic that this is just going to come in without you quote unquote having to do anything. The doing is the mental work and the spiritual connection. That's like 95% of it. So I delegated to the manager, right? Throughout the day that day, as I'm hanging out with my son, as I'm having my mom over to hang out, as I'm going and getting a facial, 2 women who were already in the program private messaged me to say they felt called to step up to my highest level in the program. And they wanted to know if they could still do that. And another woman said, yes, I'm ready to do this. And it was like that. And it was easy and it was enjoyable and it felt so good. And that's what I want all of us to tap into is there is so much power available to help you in your sales goals, in your business goals that we just don't even tap into because we've bought into this lie, this limiting belief that we're totally alone in all of it. And you're not. So again, I'm not here to tell you what your spiritual connection should or should not be because mine has been a very personal journey of mine. And it's one I'm still on because I had a lot of like limiting beliefs in that area for so long. But what I am here to say is it doesn't have to be hard. And we make it hard because of the way we think about it. It has been so much easier to bring in 10 times the amount of money every month that I used to as I learned to think this way than as I did previously. So those are your 3. I'm going to do a recap and then I'm going to open it up for questions. Lisa's saying flow versus go. Yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Number 1, you got to become unavailable for overwhelm. Period. End of story. You've got to decide you get to choose what you're available for and what you're unavailable for. That's it. Number 2, you need to know how your energy cycles actually work and start leaning into them instead of fighting against them. Okay. Number 3, you need to delegate to your universal manager and watch amazing things happen. And if you're just joining live, hey, Jill, I see you. If you're just joining live, go back and watch the story I just told about what happened for me on Saturday when I did that. So a few more resources. I'd say, I guess, really one resource if you're like really into this and you want to do a deeper dive, especially about the feminine energy cycles. 2 things. One is join my membership. She sells all access. It's $28 a month. It's month to month. And I've got a deep dive training in there on specifically like, how do you leverage time management? How do you go deep into this time management principles as a woman? It's amazing. EliseArcher.com/training. And then the second thing too is Kate Northrup wrote an incredible book called Do Less. I can't recommend it enough. It's a really, really good resource for you if you're wanting to really deepen your understanding of how your energy cycles work as a woman and how to release the busyness and the clutter and actually do what you're being divinely called to do. So I want to go into questions. So Leonard said, as a man, once you know it, then what? I love that. So you're going back to like, now you know how the women in your life, how they're actually most productive and what their energy cycles are. So I would say refer them to resources, right? Whether it's my stuff, my social media, whether it's my membership program, whether it's like getting them a copy of Do Less. DM me too if you're like, I'm a man, I just learned this, I never knew this stuff. How do I support the women on my team in this? I've got some really enlightened, empowered male sales managers right now who I'm just kind of behind the scenes. You're so welcome, Lisa, behind the scenes supporting as they work with the women on their team because we're just not taught this stuff, you know? But once you know, you can do better. That's it. So now you know, and I'm happy to help support in any capacity that makes sense and feels good. This is an excellent way for great leadership. Delegation is the key. Yeah. And we think we have to delegate like to our physical team. Well, guess what? You've also got a non-physical team that you can delegate to, which is fun. So, all right, guys, if you have any other questions, pop it in the comments. Otherwise, I'm going to hop off and get ready for a meeting with my amazing team member, my actual real life assistant. Any other questions here? All right. I wish you all a beautiful Monday. So much love to everyone who joined live. If you're watching the replay, send me a DM if you have questions on this. Oh, OJ saying, if the women are really sad around me, what are your thoughts to encourage them to work and be inspired? Wow, what a powerful question to ask. Thank you for the hearts, Jill. I would say, I think it's really connecting them with, and this is not like a shameless plug. Like there's so many women that you could connect them with who would be helpful. So I'll volunteer myself. Like feel free to send us a DM or like just say, hey, check out Elise's social media, her podcast. But let me think about what else, you know, I think a lot of it, let me tap in. I've noticed for the women I work with, OJ, the women who a big part of why they're sad is that they think there's something wrong with them. because of stuff like this, because they're not taught they're taught that their femininity is weak. They're taught that they've got to like really push and hustle and force and be very masculine in their approach. And there's a book that I haven't read yet, but I've heard it's really powerful, called Patriarchal Stress Disorder, that one of the women in my mastermind recommended. I'm going to be reading it because it's really about how, and again, not to make men wrong. Like, I coach men privately. I love my men, but it's just the business world that we've created is very masculine. And as a woman, you don't realize that it actually, how much it wears on you, because as a woman, there are different ways to achieve greater results that aren't typically celebrated in corporate, in business. And so I think the more you can just connect them with resources and help them understand their natural wiring, the more they will be uplifted. So a lot of times they are sad just because they're trying to fit into a box that wasn't designed for them, and they're making themselves wrong for it. So connect them with resources, whether it's my stuff, whether it's like one of my personal mentors, Gina DeVee, worked with her for almost 2 years. She's got amazing stuff to empower women. Kayla Kraft, who I'm working with personally right now, is my coach. She's specifically for moms, but just get them in touch with like women who are crushing it in business and life and who are doing it a different way. Because I think a lot of times they just need to see that it can be done differently and give themselves permission. And then it's almost like this flower blossoming where they realize, oh my gosh, everything that I want is available. And it's so much easier than I thought. It's so much easier than I thought it was going to be and that I was making it before. So I hope that helps. And of course, feel free to send me a DM if there are any specifics that you have questions about. Yeah, beautiful question though. All right, guys, I'm hopping off for my meeting. So much love to each of you. And I'll be on the lookout for that April series. It's going to be a free series. I think it's going to be 8:00 Eastern every Monday through Thursday night. I'm so glad that helps. But it's going to be all about the teachings in this book. I always feel like I'm done, and then I think of one more thing. If you are struggling to get what you want in life, you have resistance around it. So there's some sort of limiting belief around you can't have it, you're not worthy of it, you don't deserve it. So I'm going to be doing this series. Again, it's totally free, but just to help you like learn these practices to release and dissolve the resistance that's blocking you from what you want. So stay tuned because I'm going to be doing that, I think, starting next week, and I'll share more about it on social. All right, guys, so much love. Wishing you a beautiful day. I will see you soon. Bye.